Thanks so much for your company. I am Pius Kojo Baka. To our very first story, Parliament has finally passed 5 new tax bills before rising for the Christmas break last week. Now, the House approved the VAT amendment bill last Friday. This could see the price of goods and services going up by more than 30%. For example, motor insurance premiums are expected to go up by at least 30%. And we've got to interrogate this further as we've been joined by a tax analyst to share his perspective with us. Francis Timoboy joins me live via Zoom. Francis, thanks so much for joining me on Business Live, and good to see you again. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, Pius, and Merry Christmas to our viewers.
Great. So, you have advocated widening the tax net to capture the informal sector. Do you think that the increasing consumption tax can really deal with the challenge that is currently before us, particularly to deal with players in the informal sector, you would say?
Pius, not necessarily, because anytime, in fact, when we talk about widening the tax net, we mainly looking at strategies of a government increasing the number of taxpayers, whether individuals or businesses, to a particular tax type. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you are increasing the tax rates. And so when you bring a new tax and we notice that you are not adding new people to it, not necessarily that you are widening the tax nets. So let's look at what has been passed, the VAT, for example. You realize that the government is looking for over 3.7 billion Ghana cedis. And this is coming from a review of the exemption list that we had under the VAT law. Take, for example, insurance. Before, insurance was not taxable because it was considered as a financial service. And there's a very important reason why financial services are not taxed across the globe. So clearly, if you are imposing tax on people who already take up insurance, you wouldn't consider this as widening the tax net. What is happening is that businesses who are already doing non-life insurance, for example, they insure their properties and their vehicles and all those things, it's the same people you are taxing. So you are clearly not even dealing with the informal sector. Take the informal sector, apart from their cars, they don't even do insurance. So it's not necessarily widening the tax net. What we expect with regards to widening the tax net would have been that we should improve on our collection or strategies to collect taxes from people who are supposed to pay taxes, but they are not. And especially with respect to income taxes, indirect taxes, affect everybody, whether you're already complying or not. So I wouldn't agree that it is really going to widen the tax nets.
So do you also think that these taxes will achieve their targets of increasing revenue for government, for example?
So on the account that we have passed them and it is likely to start very early next year, I would say yes. Because if you look at 2023, all the revenue measures that we passed, they took off very late. Some of them took off somewhere August. I think majority of them were implemented in May, which means that we had already lost about 1/4 already. So now that we've passed them, what I'm expecting is that the law will make some provision for transitional period, because if you start 1st January, people are already on holidays and companies who are supposed to collect the taxes are not in business. I mean, they are not working now. So you need to allow them some few days to allow them adjust their system to collect. Otherwise, I think that the passage is a clear indication that we can do the collection a bit early, and whatever estimate or projection that the government has made is likely to be achieved.
And Francis, would you describe these taxes as burdensome, hence could be classified as nuisance taxes, as businesses have already stated?
Of course, they are burdensome, but I wouldn't describe them as nuisance tax. Why am I saying they are burdensome? Because look, 2023, all the tax measures that we passed were very heavy on businesses. And the United Nations and the KPMG did some survey. And clearly, the results indicated that the tax measures were not finding favor with the business community. Look at the brewery, the beverage sellers association, the importers. So clearly, adding this one to it is also going to cause some shakeups in the system. Already, we have still not finished dealing with the 2023 taxes that were imposed on businesses. So it's going to be, hard for businesses and likely lead to increases in price of goods and services. However, it is too early for us to describe them as nuisance taxes. Nuisance taxes normally are small taxes which do not really bring in enough revenue. So if you look at the amount of revenue that is bringing and the way it's affecting almost every commodity that is consumed by people, you normally describe them as nuisance taxes. For now, we just have to wait to see what we expect to raise from these taxes. We are told that the VAT amendment is going to bring about 3.75. The taxes on the stamp duties, the stamp duties had not been amended for quite some time. Yeah. We are told that that alone is bringing over 600 and something million cedis. The excise duty amendments, the amendments of increasing the beer excise duty rate and all those things is also going to bring about 540 million. These are quite significant amounts. So we wait to see how they will perform, and before we can conclude that they may be nuisance taxes. But certainly it's going to affect price of goods and services, and businesses are not for that Christmas. They will certainly pass it on to consumers.
I was coming to the impact this is going to have on businesses, and for that matter, translating into the consuming public. But how immediate would that be? We do know that it's happening 1st January. It's taking effect 1st January. So how effective would that be?
I would say immediately. These are indirect taxes, and that's why we always advocate that when you bring up indirect taxes, you should also be checking your inflation. Certainly, businesses are going to pass this on, and it's likely to cause some inflationary pressures in the markets. If they had come in the form of direct taxes, then would have said that it is the payers who bear it. But this is not my tax. It's government who says I should charge you. Insurance, we are going to see a hike in insurance premium. This does not necessarily mean that benefits payouts are going to increase. It is as a result of the taxes. Those days we were buying these stationery and diaries and all those items were importing, which did not attract VAT. Now they're going to be VAT and levies on them. So clearly, prices cannot remain the same, and consumers are those going to bear it.
Give me a first sense of how this is going to pan out, because 1st January, the law takes effect. So is that to suggest that the second week in January, we are going to see prices of goods and services going up?
So, Pius, normally the GRA, if the law does not come with a transitional period, and that's where there's always a problem. Today, as we speak, you wouldn't find businesses going to, amend their system to start collecting. You remember that businesses are only agents who collect the taxes for governments. And so immediately they resume 1st January, they are supposed to amend their system. If you want to renew your car insurance, immediately it will take effect. What it means is that GRA will be expecting you to, if you're a business, to come and pay the tax to them at the end of the month. And you must start from every sale that you make from 1st January. So if before you were paying 421 cedis as your third-party insurance, you should expect not less than 22% increase in that. And this is likely going to be passed on to consumers. Take, for example, the excise duty. It is a direct pass on to consumers. So we shouldn't expect that businesses are going to absorb this one. It won't happen.
And I don't know what you foresee happening next year. Do you expect the GRA to continue with their distress exercise of visiting traders to enforce the tax laws, or you expect more collaborations, you would say?
In fact, the expectation, and we have always been engaging the GRA, the expectation is that we should do more collaboration. You see, if you do that policing bit where there's always a conflict between the GRA and then the taxpayers, it doesn't send good signal. Of course, there are some, recalcitrant taxpayers out there who would always not see the need of, complying with the law. But I think that GRA must engage, especially business leaders. We've seen instances where Bosokai operators have, threaten to lock down their businesses. I believe that if they engage them and they understand that, look, this is people's representation who have passed this law. They are only enforcing it, and they make them understand the implication of the implementation of these laws. I think GRA will find it easy to, deal with it. Indeed, GRA has been given so much power, such that even if businesses are not, complying, you can, sue or even sell their businesses. They have enough power. So we expect that confrontation to be minimized and more of a professional approach in the tax collection. This will, put the GRA's image in a very good position. And I think that is the expectation. But where they are, left with no option, that's where they will be very hard on taxpayers. Because if you look at the target that is given to them, it is very, very huge. And things are not too good within the system. Look at where, interest rate is, and businesses may not be making the profit as expected. So if you fall foul of the compliance, then I think that GRA will deal with it, especially in the area of VAT, because VAT compliance is very, very low. And that is where they will be very, very aggressive with people. But we expect them to be more professional when dealing with this business community.
And Francis, before you go, I've been wondering why it's been difficult for government to, widen the tax net. Just as you mentioned earlier in your submission, that this tax looks like is going to affect the already businesses that are complying with the various tax laws. How best can government go about with this, roping in more into the tax bracket?
So Pius, you see, our economy is largely informal. And look, how many multinationals do we have in Ghana who will do proper bookkeeping? So we need some strategy to deal with the informal sector. I have advocated for the government to come up with a formal policy to deal with the informal sector. We've just heard that the ride-hailing drivers are going to pay taxes. This is long overdue. That is one way of dealing with them. And again, the vehicle owners, they are the only people who pay. What about the drivers? So clearly, there's no policy to deal with those people. A driver today, people will take a car and then they will say, okay, I'm paying weekly. Sometimes people call work and pay. Those people are making money, but how much tax do they pay? Nothing. It is the owner who pays it. And a 15-seater bus pays 16 Ghana cedis per quarter. Tell me, does this reflect the income
Certainly
that
not.
the taxi or a trotro driver? I mean, that is a peanut. So we lack that informal taxation policy, which I think is missing. That's what we need. But aside that, GRA naturally has some challenges dealing with the informal sector. And not only those doing businesses, people sell land, people sell cars, people make money alongside, and all this income, when it happens in the formal sector, I mean the employment business environment, they will pay taxes. So it's about time we need a whole national policy to deal with the informal sector. Then we'll be able to say we are having a proper tax policy. And we should not always be focusing on the indirect taxes. There are so many other tax handles. Capital gain is missing in the system. Property tax, we've been advocating for how many years now? We heard in the budget that the minister is saying that the district assembly should go back to collect their taxes, which means that the collaboration that was initiated between the GR and the district assembly has fallen down. So it's either we don't have the political will to deal with it, or we lack the national policy to deal with other tax types. And so the only way we have to go will be the indirect tax, because that one everybody pays unless you don't buy.
Again, there's been some arguments that, well, the GRA, doesn't have the, muscle to, enforce its laws.
Perfect. We've seen several government interventions, and which again, we know taxation and politics cannot be separated. But we expect that at some point, tax authorities should be allowed to, enforce their own laws. So aside the political interference, because maybe it's making some political party unpopular, GRA themselves, aside politics, may also have their own, problems, either from resources. They may not have the necessary resources to deal with it. How many offices do we have around? And so it's a whole lot of issues. And I think that maybe 2024, we should see more effort from the GRA to enforce their own laws. Trust me, they have so much power, but they are unable to enforce, certain aspects. If you ask me.
And finally, you again think this is achievable?
Yes, it could. We could achieve it because, first of all, we've passed them very early. And so, depending on the effort that the GRA puts in, we can. And so, we wait to see what will happen. If the GRA adopts a more collaborative approach in 2024, we will be able to achieve it. The target given to them is high. And if the business environment does not improve and businesses continue to make losses, that is where they may be hit with some shortfall. But I think over the years they've been trying. And so if they are able to maintain that momentum, we could achieve the revenue targets.
Very well. Thank you very much, Francis Timoboy, for your time here on Business Live. And again, have a wonderful Merry Christmas celebration there. You're still watching Business Live. We are pausing for a breather. I'll be right back with more. Hello, welcome back to Business Live. Fitch Solutions is forecasting that real household spending in Ghana will grow by 3.9% year-on-year in 2024. This, it says, is due to the easing of both inflationary pressures and debt servicing. Here's more.
The UK-based firm, stability in the labour market will help to improve the prospect for consumer spending as consumer confidence begins a path of recovery. This follows years of stubbornly high inflation over 2022 and 2023. In June 2023, consumer confidence in Ghana fell to 87.5 after increasing to 88.8 in April 2023. While this level is substantially higher than the 79.7 level in June 2022, Fitch Solutions said it remains lower than the 96.5 average over the year of the COVID-19 pandemic. It added that high levels of inflation, slower economic growth, rising levels of dissatisfaction with government policy and interest rate hikes are all contributing to a downbeat Ghanaian consumer. In November 2023, the consumer price inflation slowed to 26.4% year-on-year, the lowest level since August 2022. This level of inflation, is said, remains significantly higher than what consumers are used to, where over 2015 and 2019, inflation averaged just 12.4% year-on-year.
Interest rates remain relatively stable on the money market as the government achieved a 37.8% oversubscription of T-bill sales. This according to the auction results by the Bank of Ghana. Here's a report.
According to the auction results by the Bank of Ghana, the rate on the 91-day T-bill inched up to 29.35% from 29.04% the preceding week. However, VAT of the 182-day bill fell marginally to 31.94% from 31.96% previously. The 364-day bill remained unchanged from the past week's 32.49%. With inflation easing to 26.4% in November 2023, there were expectations that interest rate would fall significantly. Meanwhile, the government got 3.575 billion Ghana cedis from the T-bills auction. About 2.155 billion cedis came from the 91-day T-bill, representing 60.27% of the total auction. The government, however, accepted 2.154 billion cedis of the offer. For the 182-day T-bill, 750.13 million cedis were tendered. The government, however, accepted 746.11 million cedis of the bid. The 364-day bill also saw bid of 669.98 million cedis.
Thanks so much for watching Business Live. I am Pius Kojobaka. For more stories, do log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Do enjoy the rest of our programs and a Merry Christmas to you.